Hello, everyone, and welcome into the latest episode of Demystifying Divinity with Joanna and Jenny. Joanna, how the heck are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, Jenny. How are you?
Very good. Our podcast is doing very well. We're so excited. We're getting great feedback. We would love to hear more as well. What do you want us to talk about? All that jazz. It has been fun. You agree?
I can hardly stand it. I'm so excited.
So the way we're doing it recently is I come up with a topic, Joanna comes up with a topic. We don't tell each other what we're going to talk about. We put each other on the spot. So it's my turn to put Joanna on the spot again. She's totally up for it. Okay, I've got all my notes here because this is not my specialty, but I will say in the last podcast, we talked about Venus retrograde, and that was a fascinating conversation. I'm still going over it in my mind. Probably you are too, Joanna, because when you're in that Venus retrograde period we were talking about, you're rethinking, re-evaluating, reanalyzing all things Venus, which is divinely feminine. So all the divine feminine things are going to be coming up for us, and we're already in the shadow period, but we gave the dates on when Venus retrograde is. And yes, it's starting in March, and it starts on March 1st. And there is so much astrology. I mean, us astrologers have been looking at March 2025 like years ago, and just looking at the chart of March 2025 going, oh my goodness. And so March 1st starts Venus retrograde. But there's another fascinating date in March, and there's others, but we're not going to talk about that today, but we're going to talk about this topic today for March of 2025. And it's the date of March 1st, 2025. And what's that date, you ask? Well, yes, it is the day after the spring equinox, because spring equinox is March 20th. And then March 21st is this particular date that I want to talk to you about. And this is based on Vedic astrology. So there's a different kind of astrology. I do Western astrology, but Vedic astrology is from the Hindu culture, and it's called the Kali Yuga. And have you heard of this? The Yugas, they're like seasons, right? Spring, winter, da-da-da-da-da. We know our 4 seasons, right? Well, the Yugas go like this, but for thousands of years, right? Well, the Vedic experts, in particular, a fellow named Bidu Dev Misra, he wrote a best-selling book called The Yuga Shift. And he says March 2025 is the end of the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga is the winter season, if you will. It's the dark season. We've been going through this. And yes, it is going to be a new Yuga. As I'm saying this, I'm full body shivers, and I'm sure you're feeling it, Joanna. I cannot wait to tap into what your guides say about this. But it's significant global changes, and it is a significant era change. And if you are to compare to Western astrology, this is like the Pluto going into Aquarius that I'm always going on and on and on about. Like, it is changing the world. And that happened just late last 2024. And then the other 4 outer planets are changing into, we've gone over this as well. The other 4, there's 5. The other 4 outer planets are changing into new signs in 2025. And so Vedic astrology joins along us Western astrologers and agrees. Yes, huge shifts in 2025. And it's going to be this Kali Yuga, the end of the dark days. And so we're going into what is called Dvapara Yuga. So it's the spring. So we're out of the winter. We're going into spring. And literally it is spring equinox on the 20th, which is always the astrological new year, by the way. It's not January 1st of a year. It's always the new year. The astrological new year is always March 21st. It usually is. Sometimes it's March 20th. But it's the equinox. That's always the new year. That's always when you plant the new seeds. That's always when you set your new intentions. That is the new year. Okay, so we have the equinox this year on March 20th. And then it's going to be this big Kali Yuga ending on March 21st. And we're going into the Dvapara Yuga for 4,800 years. And what this is a quick Google search. What this is going to bring us is the highest spiritual awareness, truth, and harmony. And I know you were just downloading the word harmony the other day, weren't you, Joanna?
I was. And not only that, one of the dragons I work with, and she's on my skin,
Okay.
When she first came to me, she announced herself with the name Harmony. And I thought, how fitting and how beautiful.
Well, excusez-moi.
So yes, Harmony.
This for about 5 minutes here, and I just, I'm writing notes, and I'm no Vedic astrology expert, but I have been hearing about this Yuga shift. I've been hearing about the end of the Kali Yuga. This is the end of the dark days, if you will. And so I couldn't help but find the date being March 21st, 2025, giving us yet another example of how much the world is changing in March. And I couldn't help but bring it up on the podcast, Joanna. Do you blame me?
No, and as you're talking, I'm getting a whole bunch of things that I'm writing down. So my understanding of Kali, I've worked with Kali before. It's a very powerful, very strong, and can be very destructive energy. It is a feminine energy. And so I know that there is these Kali Yugas. Different people have different ideas where it ends, where it stops. I don't know any of that. I know it changes every few thousand years. Maybe, I don't know exactly what the number is. But when you were talking, the image I was getting is the image of a cleanup. So here is the metaphor. Let's say you bought a house, you bought a lot and there's a house on it, but the house is like really dingy. It's like, it's gotta go. So what you do is you basically demolish the house. So it's no longer a standing structure. It's now on the ground, rubble everywhere. And now it's time for us to clean up the rubble, to make room and make space, to build something instead of the old house. So that's the image that I'm getting. On top of that is they're saying that Kali Yuga is a very destructive force, but it's not destructive for the sake of being destructive. It's destructive for the purpose of relinquishing or quote unquote destroying what is no longer serving, so that new can be put in its place. So although it's very chaotic energy, at the end of that chaos lies a brand new beginning. So that's what I'm being shown. Does that make any sense?
That is exactly what this particular author that is well known to be the expert on this is exactly what he says. The end of the Kali Yuga, March 21st, is going to bring significant global changes. So yes. In other words, lots of things are going to happen. The astrology that I do Western astrology, also suggests that there's going to be a lot of planetary changes. Mother Gaia is listening. She's part of this. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And she takes no hostages is what I just got.
Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. Okay. Thank you.
So what this also does, it allows us to create new foundations and new structures. But in order to create new structures and new foundations, we have to get rid of the old structure and the old foundation. Because if we build anything on top of that is already weak or faulty, well, then we're not doing ourselves any favors, are we?
Yeah.
We are still creating something that is ultimately very unstable. And would you say that there's a lot of instability going on in the world right now?
So much.
Yes.
So much.
Yes.
What this new Yuga is bringing us, this new Yuga shift is bringing us, is a spiritual awakening. And so when you awake, it is jarring. It's jarring. That's what this Yuga is bringing us. Harmony, yes, but it's a spiritual awakening. And if you even look at the word awakening, it is opening your eyes. Your eyes were closed and literally they are open now. And it can be shocking to actually literally see what is before you and to have to make some very big decisions and changes in order to customize yourself to the new world.
I remember the very first time I became aware of this other reality that I was not consciously aware of. I knew it in my head, but it was not my experience. The very first time I had the experience of literally tapping to all that is, it was the scariest and the most profound experience of my life. The scariest because my ego got terrified because everything it knew up until this moment went to shit. And the thing I remember saying, my God, this changes everything. It was so much for me to experience. It's like I was tapping into this infinitely higher frequency And it's like my body didn't quite know what to do with it because there was so much information coming in all at the same time. And my human part of me, my ego, was extremely confused because everything it has known and attached itself to up until this moment was gone and shattered. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody or that everyone will have that experience, but this is essentially what happens when we go through quote unquote ego death. And I feel many people will be going through what we call an ego death. So let's talk about the ego death idea. What do you believe ego death is? What does it mean to you?
Dark night of the soul.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. And what does that mean?
Yes. I've gone through several dark nights of the soul in this particular incarnation. Have you as well, Joanna?
Oh my goodness, I'm still counting.
And it's over. I think they're still coming.
It's never over until we live this physical body. However, it does get easier, dare I say.
Yes.
So now when I'm going through a period of ego death, I can assimilate the information a lot easier and I understand what is happening. So even though it feels bloody uncomfortable, I know that at the end of that process is something fundamentally, immensely, beautifully new. I just know that.
Now you know.
But we have to go. So what I'm being guided to say is that when we go through this process of ego death, which essentially what it means according to my guidance is no longer identifying with the limiting aspects of who you are. So it's no longer identifying with your insecurities, with whatever that is. And that's our foundation. So essentially when we go through ego death, we are letting go of our foundation, which is what we've all relied on. And in that process, it can be very confusing and very scary because in that moment, we often have this question that pops up, which is, who am I? Who am I? And in that moment, when we are asking ourselves, who am I? Actually, the real question should be, who do I choose to be from this moment forward? Who do I choose to be from this moment forward? And they're saying that that's a profound question each person needs to ask themselves because first and foremost, what it does, it confirms that it's like you give life direction in terms of how you want your life to be created. And in order for you to do that, you have to resume the responsibility for creation of your life. And when we are not awakened, when we are asleep, we are not conscious of the fact that we are co-creators, that we create our reality. We believe that things happen to us, which means we are not in charge. I wouldn't say necessarily we're victims, but, we are the victim of our circumstances instead of creating our circumstances. So when we go through ego death, or as you beautifully pointed out, in that dark night of the soul, it's a really good time to first remind yourself, who do you think you are? Okay. Who do you think you are? And then the next question is, who do you choose to be instead? If what you think you are is not serving you, if what you think you are is limiting you, then it's up to you to choose who you choose to be and what you choose to believe. And during that time, when we go through this dark night of the soul, because we're in a process of being in between, we're in a process of letting go, but we're not holding firmly into the new belief system yet. So it's an incredibly powerful time to create new belief systems that will actually stick as long as we put our minds to it. That was it. That just kind of came out of me.
You channeled that.
I did.
Love that. And I want us to hold space for anyone that's watching or listening right now and going, oh my gosh, yeah, that's me. That I'm going through that right now. I just want to hold that space for you right now and tell you, you've got this. We've got you. Your spirit team has got you. You're in a beautiful place. I know it doesn't feel that, but this is such an empowering place to be. This in between, as Joanna just talked about.
I remember, and this was probably last year or 2 years ago, I was going to get my nails done. And as I was going from my car to the place, I had this knowing, this awareness that in a very short order, there's going to be a lot more people walking around being very confused. And that my job is to make sure that I stay on my path so that when these people are ready and they are reaching out, because the the allopathic ways is no longer working, then I am ready in order to help them make sense of what the hell is going on.
Oh, yes. I've had that knowing. As I didn't have a moment like you were going to the nail salon. I didn't have a moment, but I've had this knowing for at least 10 years. Just stay on the course. Just keep doing your work. Just keep doing the shadow work. I know it's tough. I know no one's watching. I know you think no one's looking. I know you think that this is all for nothing, but I've had this, no, you've got to keep on this. You've got to keep on this because there's going to be a time in history, and dare I say it's happening March 2025. A lot of people are going to be
Opening up,
awakening and going, what is this? And so they're going to be listening to podcasts like this. We're not the only ones talking about this, but we are always out there to provide some support and let you know that you're not alone. We've all been there, and there's a lot of people going through it right now.
One of the things my guides really want me to put out there is that when this shift happens, and it happens, for some people it happens really strongly, for some people not as strongly, but everyone apparently is going through it. Some people will resist it, but that's a whole different show. What they're asking me to say is that during those times, you may often have a feeling or thought that you're going crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. I've asked myself, sometimes I still continue to ask myself if I'm actually schizophrenic. I was assured I'm not, but because the human mind has a really hard time grasping something it hasn't been able to perceive up until this point. It just doesn't know what to do with it. So it's a very vulnerable time. It can make you feel like you're really raw. It can certainly make you question your life, your relationships, your jobs, your friendships, what you eat, what you wear. It's because it's like your soul is coming up and saying, hey, it's time to create something new. What do you want? Right? Yeah. But it does feel very wobbly. So anything that people can do to make it more palatable is to make sure to grounding, because it is a very ungrounding experience. When we are detaching from our foundation, that's very ungrounded. We need to pay extra attention to grounding ourselves. And this could be such a simple process. The way I ground is I visualize a white beam of light going through me all the way down to planet Earth, and I just feel myself as being this beam, and I feel grounded. But there's a zillion different ways to ground. Walking on the ground, stomping your feet, jumping up and down. Sometimes food can be grounding, but we have to be mindful of that as well. First thing they're saying is ground. Also, when we are grounded, we become much more clear in our heads, which means we can think more clearly. When we are ungrounded, we are in anxious state. When we are in anxious state, we almost always tend to default to fear, right? Because we're not feeling safe. So, and that whole experience of going through shadow ego death it can feel very anxious because, like, think about it. Everything you've known up until this point and you've relied on, it's been your structure. Now it's falling down and you're like, what's happening to me? What's happening to you is you are letting go of literally what's no longer serving you.
Yes.
In favor of something that is serving you. Now, if something is serving you, then that's absolutely fine. But if things are leaving your life and you're like, I don't want this to happen, the only thing that you can do really is just surrender to the process. Surrendering is hard. Surrendering is hard. Resistance is even harder. So we can surrender or we can resist. Why is resistance harder? Because we're doing the push and pull. So we're actually stuck, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Love it. Yeah. First of all, I just want to say a quick, if you're not familiar with Joanna's work, when she says the word schizophrenic, it's because she literally is hearing her spirit team talking to her. She has this beautiful gift. And so that's what you're referring to. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's
yes. Great. And also seeing things I've never even thought about before, like dragons, blue beings, and
happens.
Praying mantis. That's for another episode. But yes,
We'll talk about it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what Joanna's talking about. And I think more and more gifts from all of us are going to be happening. And so that's what she's talking about. Like we might think we're going crazy, but really it's because it's opening up a whole new era. Like if you want to look at it this way with the Yuga shift, with Pluto going into Aquarius, there's so many different ways of looking at what is going on in this world. But a lot of us have been looking, whether we're astrologers or whatever we are, a lot of us have been looking at this particular time in history where people are waking up, awakening, changing. If you don't like the word awakening, if that's triggering for you, and then changing, there's change happening everywhere we're looking. And it's happening on the earth and it's happening in our everyday lives. And so the change is here. And so that's why Joanna is saying, like, you might think you're going crazy because you might be getting new gifts of seeing, of hearing. Clairs are opening up, if you will. And that's what this new Yuga is promising for all of us, is if we're willing to surrender, as Joanna said, if we're willing to move into that energy, then we might be able to define ourselves completely different. Just like you were saying, we're in that in between of who am I anyways? Because maybe I didn't even know who I was.
There was something like, oh yes. Okay. As you're talking, they're saying, show them the journal. So we talked about this journal before. We've created this beautiful journal. Essentially, it's a tool to help to get you know yourself better. But because it's a coloring journal and it has a whole bunch of prompts that were channeled, coloring is very grounding. Very, very grounding. And it also employs your inner child. But that's just FYI. That's just FYI.
That's one excellent way to ground yourself.
You're actually leading me to the next conversation we're going to have on the next podcast. So, but I'm going to I know, it's just like crazy. It's crazy. Here's what they want me to say emphatically. Waking up has nothing to do with religion. Zero.
Mic drop.
Zero. Thank you for making that point.
Zero.
We are waking up to our sense. We are waking up to our, thank you. We are waking up to our divinity. We are demystifying divinity.
Yes, we are.
To be awakened is to be in presence of your divinity, your presence of your divinity, which means you are it. Boom. That's it.
That beautiful spark that each of us are.
Spark of God, spark of the universe, whatever. You can call it a giraffe. I don't care. But it didn't just happen by accident, and there's no such thing as you having no purpose. You are an essential part to this whole thing called universe. Without you, universe will be different.
This is such an exciting time. I mean, there's other astrologers or YouTubers or whoever out there saying, oh, prepare. You know, I get it, like, because we're all seeing it with different sets of eyes. But for me, I am very excited about the changes that are upcoming. I know it's coming. It's not a belief anymore. It is a knowing. I know that the world is changing. And if we can all just learn to embrace that S word. Yes. Surrender. Yeah. Then I think it's going to be easier and, dare I say, enjoyable.
Consider that enjoyable. So what are some of the things that we can share with our listeners and viewers in terms of, okay, when you find yourself going through this process and you're like, I think I'm going crazy. There's millions of things you can do. Obviously, you're listening to this, so that might be helpful. Of course, you can reach us to work with us individually. We also do group work. What you're looking for is information. Information is free everywhere. It's just how to access this information. But most importantly, what do you do with information, right? Because we can give you a whole bunch of information, but if you don't apply to it, you're not going to know any difference. So a piece of information I want to share with people is grounding. Okay. If you're going through a difficult period, and when I say difficult, I'm not suggesting something bad. You could be building a brand new house, but you first have to destroy the old house. I would say that's kind of difficult, but you know, it's happening for a good cause. And you know that at the end of that exercise, you're going to have a beautiful brand new house. So think of it as you are literally recreating your own inner house.
Beautiful.
You know, so grounding, making sure we're hydrated. Of course, this goes without saying. some sort of practice of meditation, mindfulness, because during this time, a lot of things are going to come up to the surface. Our job is to learn to be more of an observer. Doesn't mean not to enjoy, but to be more of an observer. And when we begin to experience being observer of our fears, we are literally realizing, wait a second, I am not my fear. I am not my limitation. What? Yes. Right? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I love that. Like for me, meditation hasn't been an easy journey, but observing my thoughts, even that is such a powerful practice. So like at the end of the day, just checking in. Okay, what was I ruminating about? Did I think about, what so-and-so said? Was I thinking about that all day? Like just observing the thought. That is a powerful practice. If you can't, air quotes, meditate yet, just observe at the end of the day, where did my mind go?
You can start with something really simple and quite easy, I think. Literally taking a deep breath, close your eyes, and tuning into how your body is feeling. Becoming aware of your body talking to you. And you'll often, if you're not used to being present, you'll find within a second and a half, your box is going to start chiming in and talking. That's fine. But as long as you can keep going back to being present and just allowing yourself to feel what your body is feeling, that's all you have to do. Because what you are learning is you are learning to be present with yourself. And according to my guidance, when you are present with yourself, with your true self, you are more at peace, but you also have access to higher wisdom. Because this chatterbox is not so loud. But starting with something really simple. You don't have to sit in a lotus flower. You don't have to go to Himalayas. You do you.
Yeah.
The purpose of meditation is literally to go within. Wow, that was a fast one. That went pretty fast. I loved it.
Or Yuga?
It was like a spark of...
Yes, you were channeling on, loved it. So if you love these kind of convos, come back for more. We love talking about all the woo and making it less woo, because these are everyday conversations that are going to be more and more normalized as the years go on, especially with these changing times. So let us help you through all of these things. So suggest, what would you like us to talk about? And we're open to all that kind of feedback.
Yes, and we can't wait to just keep doing more and more and more of these.
Okay.
All right, guys.
For tuning in. Until next time, take care.